Unveiled to the press at Nürburgring in 1996, the 550 Maranello was Ferrari's return to its flagship front-engine V12 cars. It's the successor to the 512M and proved itself quicker and far more practical thanks to its front-engine, rear-wheel drive layout. The engine was derived from the 456, both with the same cubic capacity. The 65-degree V12 engine sports 4 valves per cylinder, twin overhead camshafts per bank, and dry sump lubrication. The block, cylinder heads, and sump were all cast from lightweight alloy, and the 550 has a power output of 485 horsepower at 7,000 RPM. Designed by Pininfarina, the body of the 550 has a subdued elegance, a design that has withstood the test of time, and its appearance of aggressive elegance has managed to combine power and performance with comfort and practicality, making for the ultimate modern manual Grand Touring Ferrari. Daytonas have long been a favorite car of mine, and one of the things that really attracted me to the 550 was how it's like a modern day Daytona with its long nose and short tail. It just kind of brings back that old 70s and late 60s era into a modern car with modern amenities. And one of the things that you really have to consider as a Ferrari buyer is first, of course, when you're going to buy your first Ferrari, you have to decide what you really want, what attracts you, and then your price point. Once you've figured those two things out and you've decided on a model, for instance, a 550, then you really have to dive into what matters to you. So colors, obviously, do you need red tan or do you want something a little different? And then it gets into options. So these cars in the late 90s, in 98, they didn't really have a whole bunch of options, but they started in 1999 and forward having lots of options. And modern Ferraris, there's a whole list of things you can choose from. So in cars like this, you could have quilted headliners or rear shelves. You could have carbon fiber. You could have the little prancing horse on the fender right here. You could have different colored calipers. So these are things you need to consider when buying. Is there something that's really important to you? Do you need to have the carbon fiber? Is that something that it's going to excite you and really make you fall that much more in love with your car? Another thing, once you've figured all that out, to really take into consideration is the services on these cars. So 550s luckily are not that bad service-wise. They still need cam belt services, but they can be done in car, which cuts down the cost quite a bit. Cars like Testarossas, you have to drop the whole rear end out and the engine out to do the service. And we've done quite a few services, or sent cars out for quite a few services, and they've reached 20 grand pretty quickly on things like Testarossas. So the 550 is lower maintenance. And so that's something you really need to take into consideration when buying. And you should always try and find a car that has a good service record history. So a good, like, you can see the paperwork throughout the years that it's been well maintained. And even if it doesn't have that, at the very least, you want the last service record. So has it had a recent large service where any of the while you're at it stuff? So if you're doing cam belts while you're at it, might as well do a water pump or new tires or whatever it needs. You want to make sure that kind of stuff is done. And if that isn't available, then at the very least, I highly recommend having a pre-purchase inspection done, which means paying your local Ferrari mechanic $300 to $600 to do an inspection of the car. They have a checklist. They go down the list and make sure that the cosmetics and mechanics are in good condition and give you a breakdown on what's good in the car, what's bad in the car, and the cost to put it up to, whatever standards you want. If it needs a service, it would be X. So those are some of the things I definitely recommend when looking to buy your new Ferrari. This car behind me has a little over 66,000 miles. And for a Ferrari, that's fairly high mileage. A lot of these cars, you find them in the 20,000 mile range. So when buying a Ferrari, you have to take into consideration what is important to you, especially when it comes to mileage. Do you want a, 1,000 or 2,000 mile Ferrari that's a garage queen and it retains its value better, and you get to go out in the garage and look at it and it makes you happy, but you really don't drive it much because driving it is going to drop the value of it? Or do you want something that you're only going to put a couple thousand miles on? So something in the middle mileage might be a little better. Or do you want something that you're really going to drive? That if you put 20,000 miles on it, it's not a big deal because it's already on the higher mileage. It's not going to drop that much in value. And you can really use the potential of the car and drive it around and enjoy it. So that's another thing you really have to think about. What are you going to do with the car? Is it going to be driven only on Sundays to coffee, or are you going to drive it all over the place? So this car, the nice thing about a higher mileage car like this one in particular, it's been very well taken care of. So it has a whole box of service invoices. The owner has made sure it's extremely well maintained and it needs nothing. When I get in the car, you start it up and you drive. And, some of the older cars, they give you some issues, especially carbureted cars that need constant tuning. So the nice thing about a more modern, well-maintained car is it's just ready for you to drive whenever you want. I've always liked the Gran touring cars like this 550. They're extremely comfortable and user-friendly. If you have a 430, it's a bit sportier. You can kind of throw it around corners a bit more, but this is going to be just a more comfortable, leisurely kind of drive. And it has plenty of power. Trust me, it can go plenty fast. But it also gives you the option to, if you decide you want to get your wife and throw some luggage in the trunk and go up to Napa Valley or Las Vegas or, somewhere hours away, fine, no problem. Get in the car and go. And you can have a nice drive down the coast and, have the AC blasting and be in perfect comfort. Or you can decide you want to just smoke everyone on the road and hit the throttle and give everyone a nice view of your taillights as you disappear into the distance. It gives you the options to kind of do whatever you want. Plus, it really does have good luggage space, which is nice for a touring car because you really can get a couple overnight bags and throw them in the trunk. A lot of Ferraris don't really give you that option. So that's definitely something I find important in the touring cars. Having dealt with a lot of cars, it always is a nice surprise when a car like this has been sitting in my showroom for a little over a week. And this morning, when we go to drive it for the filming, I get in the car and I turn the key and it starts. And with modern cars, you don't really think like that should be an issue, but with a lot of older Ferraris, batteries die and you get a lot of issues. If you've had a bunch of cars, it's always a good day when when the car starts, when your classic car starts. So something like the 550 is such a great choice because it's reliable and it does everything right. And the nice thing about the body style on the 552 is it's very subdued. So if you're looking for something that's not super flashy, not super look at me, but you still want the power of a V12 Ferrari, this is the perfect car. And we have done 2 other videos on 550s. So if you want a little bit more information on these cars, go ahead and click the links below to check out the other videos. I hope you guys have enjoyed and stay tuned because we got a lot more content coming very soon.